A very good evening to all of you. And we are in the last session of this day one conference. Thanks for being with us today. We have a last keynote session that is going to be given by Gauri Gupta. We are happy to have you here, Gauri. Gauri is heading testing practice at Oracle. She is subject matter expert in agile software testing, consulting staff practice manager, heading the testing practice at Oracle. She is confident in accepting diversified challenges of short time to market, increasing complexity and agility while keeping the quality goals high. Today, she'll be delivering a keynote session on Test Beyond the Obvious. Warm welcome to you, Gauri.
Thank you so
Gauri,
much. I hope I'm audible, Harpreet.
Yes, you're audible.
Yeah.
Okay, is my screen visible?
Yes, your screen is visible. Maybe
okay.
Slide
over to you.
And go ahead.
This is the first. Okay, sure. Over to you, Gauri. Stage is all yours.
Thank you. Thanks, Harpreet, and good evening to all. This is Gauri Gupta here, representing Oracle as a task leader, testing as a service. I have about 15 plus years of IT experience, inclusive of testing of about 10 years. I welcome you all to the exciting ending session for today's seminar, Testing Beyond Obvious. I'm sure we all went through various sessions today and have added immense value to our knowledge base of testing, and that should have uplifted our skills, and together we have a promise to be made to grow as a testing community. If we can go to index.
Harpreet, you have to share the slide deck if you can.
Yeah,
you're on mute. You are on mute, Harpreet. We can't hear.
Let me stop sharing and reshare again. That would really help.
Yeah.
Is it the slide I need to be on, Gauri?
Thank you so much.
For the next.
So a quick agenda recap for what we'll be going through. So we'll go through tools on processes, agile way to automate, scaling to microservices, environmental health check, AI/ML, agile testing cheat sheet, and avoiding the common mistakes. We can move on to the first slide.
Sure. I think there is. Yeah.
Yeah, while all of us work, sorry. Go ahead. While all of us work on various tools and processes every day, I think it is very important for us to know how do we improve on testing using these tools and technologies now as well as in future, right? We all do different types of testing, smokes, sanity, regressions, functional testing. We all build these strategies. We do environmental planning. We build the test plans, test completion reports. We do prepare a lot of data that can help us add the better coverage. Like UI navigations, we do a lot of testing for API services and database. We also do the compatibility on mobile, iPad, and other gadgets. So how do we healthify these manual tests? Can we add risk-based testing approach? Can we create a tool that can generate the combinatory tests? What can support these additional areas of testing when we look at the manual testing? So basically, what about MockDB that can speed up the testing of the microservices? I think list can go on, but the essence is that it will help us to improve our test. Coming to the automation testing, I think we all begin the automation using Java Selenium as core navigation tool. And it's one of the most mature tool I think we still have. While we should all aim at parallel, sequential, and unattended scheduled executions, while we automate in sprint, we have to consider things like, flanky test cases, right? So we all see that there are a lot of areas that flunky tests cases needs to be handled. So WebDriver IO with the retry mechanism, how can we use? Considering the speed of execution, how can we use the tools? Tools that can support JavaScript, TypeScript, Python, .NET, and other technologies. Playwright, which technology can perform the automatic waits that can help us find the synchronization and enable us to bypass the repetitive logins, and thereby we can achieve the optimization. Lambda test is another popular tool. We have Karate, Cypress. I think we just recently saw the demo. But JavaScript, Mocha, PyTest, these are other available toolkits. I think key is basically to be able to automate everything, right, when it comes to in sprint. But also the focus, if we can make sure that we automate the UAT flows as well as the production bugs, that can probably close all the gates of the quality that we are responsible to take care as the QA. Yeah. Continuous testing is another popular jargon. We have had a couple of sessions today with respect to continuous testing. So we saw most of the products that are available to make us, go through the testing on continuous basis. So that also tells us, right, how the testing has been most important aspect of the software delivery. So CI tools like Jenkins, Bamboos, version controls like Git, Bitbucket, SVN, continuous deployment tools like Cobiton, Spinnaker, all of these play quite important role when we are talking about CI/CD. Circle CI, which was also part of the demo right now, that has been the most efficient tool which can be configured using the YAML file. And then tools which have actually the built-in support for Docker, and if not having enough overhead for doing the initial setup and we can do the maintenance easily, I think we should look into such tools thereby. Adobe Experience Manager, I think one of the session that we had today is about Adobe Experience Manager. It's basically the tool that helps us to reduce our go-to-market time, because as a QA, we always get the code, or rather the developed code, little later in the cycle of our 2-week sprint or 3-week sprint. And there is a wait time wherein the QA has to wait and then finish early, right? So instead of waiting, I think the UI changes, the components that can help from the Adobe Experience Manager can help us speed up in the automation development. Coming to cloud, I think we have different set of flavors like Azure, AWS, Google Cloud, Oracle. So we have done in past the cloud migrations while we moved on to cloud. And we do have different set of tests that we need to perform, like performance, load testing, stress, compatibility. I think coming into the pandemic kind of situation wherein, while we could not go to workplaces, device farms played a major role and impacted the testing world. I think those were the key from that angle. Coming to AI/ML, I think we have seen a lot of development that went in since 2021. So we had the RPA, we used UiPath, Blue Prism, Automation Anywhere that were picked up rapidly. Building autonomous solutions was made possible. And today in this world of predictability, I think we all have to get into the digitalized QA, right? So the world has become digital and we cannot run away from this, and we have to ensure that we use AI/ML in a better way, and we will be able to perform the autonomous testing as easy as possible. Can we move to the next slide? Agile way to automate. I'm keeping the facts that we are planning to use here, the BDD way of automation. So there is a business idea that is getting discussed between the product owners and the BA. they are basically putting that business idea as a story in Jira, whether it's an epic or a story. And they also define the acceptance criteria. The Jira has, or the other test management tool will have the subtasks for the QA preparation, QA execution activities. And then for the test data also, there will be a subtask that gets created. So you have different types of testing that we do for automation as well, for GUI as well as services and API components. And we will have the tool for the feature file editor, which can be used by PA or PA of the project. And they can come to the tool and they can select the story and the acceptance criteria and define the feature files here. And once they hit submit, these feature files will be available to the repository. Coming to services and API, there is a feature file generator tool that is written using Python. And that tool also will enable to generate the feature files, and those feature files then will be available in the test repositories, the source repository, basically this is SVN, Bitbucket or GitHub. And then we'll have the test data that can be defined by the specialist, which can define the test data using the JSON files. And you may have the analytics team to define the data as well. So that data again becomes part of the repository. And then whenever there are check-ins or checkouts done by the development QA teams, then the updates will automatically happen in Jira. The PRs can be raised and the reviews can happen, which can streamline the development process. So once everything in the code is ready and then CI is hitting, the automatically the execution will happen as per the schedule, whether it's parallel or sequential. Coming to the deployments to various environments, we'll have the deployment pipeline, which you can see there are unit test cases built, triggers, there are unit tests that will pass. Once we hit the specific number of unit tests passed, then it will hit the QA integration test cases. The Veracode scan will run, the disaster and recovery test will execute, and the QA's end-to-end test cases will be executed. Once the deployment is all successful, the results will be updated and there will be report that will be then sent out to the stakeholders. Once all of these tests are also complete and they are marked as complete, they will automatically go ahead and update the Jira's test statuses as into acceptance as tickets, and then the story is basically going to get closed, which is basically the subtask gets into the completion status. So this is just the brief on how we can think of processing our automation into the Agile by adopting the BDD way, which is something that is adopted by most of the organizations these days as part of the Agile. Can we move to next slide, please? Thank you. So this is basically the topic which is quite interesting, I think, scaling to microservices. A few years back, we were all in the monolithic architecture, wherein basically mono means single code base. So we had everything contained into one mono application, like all the required functionalities. So application had different though layers like UI, service, DB. They were all deployed that code base as a single jar or WAR file. So when with monolith, it was very difficult for the applications because they were too large. So even if I had a hotfix release to redeploy a whole application, it took some time. So they were quite difficult to manage. Then we started having the projects which we started moving into the decoupled components. And then we moved into the applications which used smaller services and handled small portion of the functionality, wherein we are communicating each other as a service using the lightweight protocols. So microservices are basically self-contained, and hence they are deployed also independently. So they kind of perform the horizontal scaling. And it's very important aspect of the continuous delivery, wherein we saw just now the pipeline that is getting built, and then automatically the test should happen within your application, should be able to deploy, test, and then your production environment or any other environment that we are trying to move next. I think that's where the pipeline will be able to. So to ensure that you are able to run your test cases fast, you are basically able to automate your acceptance flow and test small pieces, test into small pieces, small set of services. The code base can be in isolation, and we can avoid hitting the DB, and we can use mocks and stubs. So H2DB is basically something that you can apply to mock the data. We can create the tables using DML, DDL, or the application which is consumed by the microservice. We can mock it like using Mockito or WireMock. So in this example, I think it is just listing down the steps for the development and the QA, wherein the developer is basically hosting the microservice, implementing the REST interface, and there are all dependencies and integrations that are added. The code then is available into the source repository, and then Jenkins is basically kicking off the build. Once the build is successful, then the pipeline gets created using Spinnaker, and then Cerberus is getting added to the application catalog. So Spinnaker is then going to integrate with the notification systems, and then you get the teams notified. Your unit tests are getting executed. The sonar coverage, if it is greater than 80%, then we continue to deploy further. For the QA, I think there are two sets. One is the code commit, and the other is deployment. So basically, for the code commit, the development commits the code, and then the QA also the folder is in the same, it sits in the same structure of the dev, and then the acceptance tests will get executed. So the deployments has another strategy wherein we are basically trying to install the image onto different environments, and as part of automation, all of our test cases, integration, non-functional tests, whether it's performance, reliability, all types of tests will get executed as part of the pipeline. And here we can actually try to try to perform the ad hoc and exploratory test cases, wherein the exploratory testing will ensure that we are able to cover things that we might have missed out, right, via automation. So basically, for the microservices, I think it is very important wherein we are considering doing the data independent tests, or we again, enhance or code using the BDD scenarios, or trying to capture the user journeys and do the independent way of testing. Harpreet, I think there is a question on the slide, I think, in the chat.
It was scaling to microservices slide that was visible, right?
Yeah, I'm able to. I don't know whether somebody else had an issue, so I thought I'll mention.
Yeah, I just rolled to the next slide now because we just completed that. Now it's environment. Is the same slide visible? Can somebody confirm?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for confirming. So this is one slide is about the environmental health check. So basically it is about the SIT, the system integration testing, and trying to solve the problem. Basically, we see a lot of issues when it comes to SIT, because we are trying to integrate our system with the outside world, which is basically multiple systems integrate with our application and vice versa. So we have inbound integrations, we have outbound integrations. So we see that there is a desire and need to change the system integration environment testing from a reactive service, right? So something that we can plan ahead. When it becomes a reactive service, it is basically while we are trying to react after having the issues, right? So how do we try to address these, right? So environment stability is one, which is like checking the SIT environments, whether it, because at times this SIT environment fails at numerous times while doing the test execution, and there is no clear activity that I can identify or resolve these issues, and then having the availability statistics. So there is nothing like a definite source of the environment issues and their impact. Some details that can get logged into the test management tools, or certain things that we can think that post issue will log into the Jira or others. But at the same time, how do we go ahead and solve these problems, right? So defect management anyways not going to help us in the substantial way, wherein we can only raise the environment issues and somebody can do the fixing of it once the issues are available, or we do the proactive monitoring of the environment. So this is basically the environment heartbeat to check the end-to-end at the frequent intervals, and then sending the automatic notification of the issues as they are detected. So if we consider the online delivery, right? So we get things obviously a lot of times now into pandemic through online delivery, Amazon, Flipkart, even pharmacies, right? Like Apollo, which has got different pharmacies, and then it basically has to come back to the main hospitals as the application. But journey of from the product vendor to the customer is something like an SIT environment. So here, basically the customer is trying to check out the items, and he has the cart. Cart has got the products have the barcodes, and these barcodes data is basically something that then goes, and we have the various sites in which these barcodes can be generated as a test data, and we use that through the API. We check into the queue system whether here it's an EPS, whether the data is valid, the format is valid, and we get the response back. If not, again, the notification has to be generated. After the barcode, the scanned product details in the form of JSON are sent to the queue system. And once verified, it is good to go to the application, to the business rules. However, if not, we again send back the signal. After business rules verification, the crude operation happens, where you can create, update, delete for all these product details, and then the DB verification happens, and then there is a response going back. So all of these signaling systems, what we see here is basically trying to send back the response saying that I'm alive. If not, the response says that, okay, there is an issue and you need to look into it. Similarly, once this whole operation has been successful, the response from JSON goes back to the product, basically the subsystem, wherein we can check whether the transaction has been successful. The product details are now appearing in the downstream applications. So the downstream applications may have the service, they may have the user interface or APIs, or the mobile app, wherein we can go ahead and check whether the product now is appearing. So this check is going as a response via JSON, and we again use this signaling. So at the same time, these are trying to create the responsive messaging and ensuring that the environment is intact, and there are no issues from the integration environment. So this is basically the health check that you can think of introducing in your applications, and that can enable you to save the failure time. Yeah. Harpreet, we can move to the next slide. I think maybe it's an overdose, but we have gone through a couple of slides today which talked about the AI/ML, and we did had a couple of
So, Gauri, can we request you to wrap up in the next few minutes if it's okay?
Certainly. Yeah, thanks. So basically AI/ML testing, I think it is more of the artificial intelligence and ML. How does it help in the testing? So today we call the digital testing world where AI and ML is playing a key role. So we have seen the flunky test wherein the test have failed because of the application issue, because of the script issue, and then AI can help us to detect these trends wherein the random test failures can be caught, and then we can accelerate the process. Uh, if UI keeps changing, right, the code of the UI, the application keeps changing. So AML can help us to detect these changes and then take the appropriate steps, right? Our regression suite also can be kept maintained.
Sorry, I think we lost.
Gauri, are you there?
We can look into the generating of the logs which are available in the production. We can read those logs, and then we can go beyond to do the gap analysis that also can create the test cases on its own. So you can effectively use AI/ML via computer vision, NLP, predictions, or collaborative filters. I think there are many use cases that you can think of, like image reading, facial recognitions. We all have the QR codes. Then the context sensitivity from the emails or logs that we can read. Learning from the past experiences, previous defects, previous requirements, all of that we can see, and then we can make decisions based on that. And we can use the data available, which is going to help us indeed from the collaborative filters to understand the patterns of the usage of the application or the traffic that can help us understand and analyze better. Yeah, we can move next. Harpreet? Hello.
Yeah, is the slide visible? I have moved to next slide.
We can move to next.
Okay, one more.
Gauri, last 1 minute, if you can wrap, please.
Yes. So I will not talk about this, but I think the presentation will be visible to everyone later point in time. But just move previous ones. I can just talk about Agile cheat sheet. What does that cheat sheet means? Actually, basically just once previous, if you can. Yeah, this cheat sheet means that, we have all these sprint ceremonies that are listed here. And when do these ceremonies happen? What would be the outcome of these ceremonies, and what should be our QA activities? And if we keep this handy, I think how is it going to help us to lead as a better QA in our project? So that's something that can be a takeaway from today's session. We can move to next.
Sure.
Yeah, I think how to avoid mistakes. I think one of the books that I was reading, and I thought it is very important for us, even while ending this session. I think it's important not just for the testing team, but for the development, for the entire team, which is trying to build some solution to be available for the market, to understand certain mistakes that can definitely be avoided, right? So we can always think of testing something without product's internal knowledge, without going through the design, without understanding those subtle features and the important ranges, special cases or edge cases that can create the gap between what we test and what the software provides. Skipping testing like system testing, unit testing, wherein it could be something like we are driving the cars where all parts are not tested before we assemble it. So expecting even testing to produce quality is something like a myth, because quality is internally built in Agile, right? So it's the product of the development process. Poor testing can lead to poor quality, but then for good testing, it will not lead to good quality unless all the processes are followed and they are performed properly. I think this is just the message that I want to give it to the community, that all of us today have learned together many things, and let's, I think, grow here as a community. And thanks to Aditya, as well as the Agile Testing Conference, thanks to Harpreet for enabling me to present today. But it has been a great experience, and looking forward for the next sessions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gauri. Harpreet, you are on mute. So
Thanks for reminding me. Let me share my screen.
Yeah.
I'll share.
a very informative session, Gauri. Thank you.
Thanks, Aditya. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I hope my screen is on share.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Gauri, for the wonderful session. It was great having you. From your